Hello class, today we mainly study general procedure for contract formation. By learning, we can understand the basic contents of the contract, master the basic process of contract making, and grasp the common contract formation problems and the treatment method. Let's see. What is contract formation and formation? First of all, what is contract formation? Formation of contract. It means that the parties mean each other. Such a process of representation and convergence. So inside this, here's what you need to be aware of. The expression of mutual meaning. And the expression of this meaning. It has to be consistent. Can be called a law of contract. Which means we are in the middle of a contract. There has to be a process. So what we want to emphasize is this. The conclusion of the contract is not equivalent to the entry into force of the contract. This is very important. I hope the students also want to keep it firmly in mind. It is not necessarily effective. There's one more we need to look at. Enter into a contract. We need to take a look at that, too. When will the contract be formed? Formation of contract. It means that the parties agree on what they mean. And the process of reaching an agreement. So this is the formation of the contract. Then he needs conditions for the contract to be established. So let's take a look. What are the conditions for the formation of the contract? What's the first condition? There are two or more contracting parties. That is to say, I'm the only one. Can I form a contract? That doesn't make any sense. There must be two sides. Two or more parties. To be our contracting party. Second condition. It is up to us contracting parties to the main terms of the contract. He wants to reach an agreement. Which means all of us. Two or more parties. A signing of a contract for a matter. Must be a consensus. It is the second condition for us to form this contract. So the third condition is the formation of the contract. There has to be an offer and a commitment. These two stages. Now let's look at what exactly is an offer, what is commitment. So let's look at the first one. According to a provision of contract law, the parties to a contract reach agreement on the main terms. We said it over and over again. To reach agreement means to show agreement. A process that leads to a contract. This requires two stages of invitation and commitment. Come to see. What do you mean an offer? An invitation is one of the parties for the purpose of concluding a contract. Then, present the terms of the contract to the other party. A statement of intent that the other party is expected to accept. This is the idea of an invitation. That means I want to make a contract with you. I must put some conditions I want to conclude the contract on, tell you, and then you give me some conditions. After seeing, would you like to sign this contract with me? I invite you to come with me to complete my expression of intent on this contract. This is an offer. We talked about the offerer. He also has some constitutive elements. Not all of us can act as offerers. So let's see. Let's start with the first offerer. He needs to be able to contract. So in this place, if we talk about minors, or a person with limited capacity for civil conduct, he doesn't have it. We have an ability to contract. This is us. Among the constituent elements, the first thing to pay attention to. So the second one, among our offers, to have clear an intention to enter into a contract. So this, it mainly refers to our purpose. I need a purpose before I sign a contract with you. What contracts do you make for no purpose? The third offer should be to a specific person. From a specific counterpart. It wasn't sent out to everyone. Is that right? So it has a specific quality. The third. The content of the offer must be specified. So this is a certainty of the offer. An element of the final offer. The offer shall indicate. Undergo a promise of the covenant. the offeror is bound by one of the representations. That is to say, if you accept one of my offers, and that means you are going to accept one of my constraints. This is an offer. Good. So let's see. There is an offer, there is a promise. So this promise mainly refers to the offeree. A sign of consent to an offer. I'm the only one who made you an offer. You said you had no opinion. If you want to sign a contract with me, then you have to make certain commitments. You want to represent. You are willing to sign this contract with me. So the same. Commitment also has 4 components. What's the first one? The acceptance must be made by the offeree to the offerer. Which means I'm gonna make you an offer. Then you have to promise me. Not a third party. Or someone else making a promise to me. So the second commitment way. It must meet the requirements of our offer. Meet some of the requirements put forward by the offerer before the contract. The third. The commitment must be within a specified period of time. Service on offerer. Terminability. I can't invite you to sign a contract with me. We reach a certain point. I can't wait forever. I must have a deadline for a time. How long ago? You made a promise to me. So he's got something like a time limit. Good. So in the end, what we talk about, an offer is subject to certain conditions. The word of promise. Content of commitment. You have to talk to us about the contents of the offer. Be consistent, otherwise, the content of my offer is different from the content of my promise. How can we achieve consensus, whether or not? Therefore, the last, it's the content of the commitment. Be consistent with the contents of the offer. This is the offer and acceptance of our contract. Then about the time when this contract was formed. We mainly have 5 aspects of content. The first is when the commitment takes effect. Our contract is established, which means when I ask you out, you gave me a sign of consent. The contract between us is established. When the second contract was formed, it means that the parties adopt the form of a contract. To conclude a contract, signed by both parties, or when it's stamped, our contract becomes effective. This one means that it is signed in writing between the parties. Signed and sealed. A type of time when the third contract is formed. Let's see. Let's say the parties use letters. Data message. Such a form to conclude a contract. Then we can do this before the contract is formed. Ask for a confirmation. When you sign this confirmation, he establishes the contract. The fourth case. Provisions of laws and administrative regulations. Or the parties agree. Conclude the contract in writing. The parties are not in writing, but it has fulfilled some of the main obligations of the contract. It's not signed at this time, but I've done something that I'm obligated to do. Then the other party accepted, have already acquiesced. So this time, we also tacitly accept that the contract is established. The last case. That is, we conclude the contract in the form of a written contract. Before you sign or stamp, a party has fulfilled its principal obligation. Acceptable. Then this contract is also valid. So these 5 scenarios, we can all think. It is a normative time for the establishment of our contract. The place where the commitment takes effect, that's usually where the contract was formed. The place where the commitment takes effect. The same place where the contract was formed. Second case. It's a formal contract. The place where the undertaking takes effect. Why the place where the contract was formed. The third form of the contract. The place shall be in a completed legal or agreed form. The place where the contract is formed. Fourth, the parties conclude the contract in the form of a letter of contract. Place of signature or seal by both parties. Where the contract was formed. The fifth, when a contract is concluded in the form of data messages. The recipient's principal place of business. The place where the contract is formed. When we don't have a place of business. So he used to live in this place. It becomes the place of the contract. So one last form is otherwise agreed upon by the parties. We take the agreed place as the place where the contract is concluded. So, students, so that's one of the things we're going to learn today. We mostly learned conclusion and formation of the contract, so some of the conditions of the contract, and the general procedure for contract formation. I also told you about the offer, and the promise of a content. Finally, I gave you an introduction. The 5 parts of the time the contract is formed, and hours. The location of the contract is formed in 5 different ways. Such a sure way. That's all we're going to do today. Thank you for watching.